Hi, and welcome to InstaVision with Glenn Reynolds, which is me, and today with Dan Mitchell, who is a senior policy analyst at the Cato Institute, and he's also got a really interesting series of videos that he's doing that basically explain economics in the context of present times. And we've got a small clip on the stimulus right now. If we can just run that clip, give people an idea what we're talking about.
Let's puncture the myth that bigger government stimulates the economy. As we discussed in our video on Keynesianism, every dollar the government puts in the economy's right pocket is financed by more government borrowing, which means the money is taken out of the economy's left pocket. Keynesianism doesn't increase national income. It just redistributes how it gets spent.
So how's this stuff playing out there, Dad? I've got a pretty good reaction from my readers when I've linked to your videos, but how many of these have you done so far?
We've done about 20 or 25 of them, and when we first did it, we thought, wow, maybe we'll get 500 or 1,000 people to watch one of these and find a new audience for our message, and we've been stunned that on average they get probably more than 20,000, and our video on Keynesian economics has about 118,000. So it's really been a great vehicle for trying to bring the free market message away from just the policy papers, which of course are still good things, but with these YouTube videos, it's really a chance to bring more people into the fold, get them to understand basic economic concepts that governments don't create wealth, they just redistribute it.
Yeah, I know one thing you've focused on a lot has been the whole tax haven issue and the efforts of governments to sort of establish basically a floor on tax rates so people won't be tempted to move places where the taxes are better and compete. And, you know, people were saying a lot of bad things about these tax havens. They were basically calling them pirates and the like. And I actually was inspired by your video to go on an undercover Pajamas TV investigation in Grand Cayman, where I actually talked to quite a few members of the local criminal element and tried to get some information from these people about the tax havens and how all of the offshore banking and stuff was working. But, you know, they clammed up. It was like talking to statues. I couldn't get anything out of them at all. So I was really happy to have your video to inform me in a somewhat better way. In reaching out to people like this, you know, you're basically like a YouTube rock star now. I mean, 118,000 viewers, that's about as many as Anderson Cooper's getting these days, I think.
Well, we're doing more videos every day, and you were kind enough on your blog to link the new one we did, explaining that, yes, deficits are bad, but they're only the symptom. The underlying disease is government spending. So every time we think there's an issue that's very important, we try to do one of these little videos. It's always, of course, matched with some of the analysis and writing that comes out of the think tanks, but we're just trying to make sure that we're leaving no stone unturned and finding ways to get the message to people, because there's a coordinated, very deliberate effort in Washington to increase the size of government, to create more dependency among the American people, and I'm frankly just terrified of what that means for America's future.
Do you think that that effort kind of takes advantage of sort of a general level of economic ignorance? And do you think part of the problem is just economic education in general?
How many people, they'll watch a politician give a speech saying, I passed this new stimulus bill and it's going to put $1 billion into our state. Well, nobody bothers to ask the other side of the question, which is, oh, where did you get that $1 billion? Well, if government's taking money out of the economy's right pocket with borrowing and then giving us back some of the money into our left pockets, we're supposed to act like they've done us a favor. And of course, if you look at the underlying theory, it doesn't make sense when you look at both sides of the equation. But then also in these videos, we try to marry the theory with evidence. So we look at what happened, say, with Hoover and Roosevelt, how Keynesian economics didn't work for them. We looked at what happened in Japan in the 1990s. It didn't work for them. And also, we're very scrupulous to be nonpartisan, because Bush was a big spender. That didn't work for him. Obama's being a big spender. It didn't work for him. I'd much rather choose Reagan or Clinton over either Bush or Obama. I just want smaller government and more freedom.
Yeah, it's funny to see how much nostalgia there is for Bill Clinton among a lot of you know, Republicans and libertarians these days. And of course, he didn't start out that great. He had his own health care thing, but then he was kind of chastened, and after that, you know, it really wasn't so bad. Do you think we're going to see that sort of thing again? Do you think we're going to see a backlash against these big spending, big government approaches, and maybe see saner government after the 2010 elections?
Well, there's no question we're getting a backlash already. The tea parties that you always do such a good job of publicizing on Instapundit, the protests at town hall meetings where the politicians now are afraid to actually meet with their voters. And there's no question the Democrats are scared to death of what's going to happen in 2010. They've overreached. Now, I have no idea whether Barack Obama will be a Bill Clinton and he'll then start triangulating and being more reasonable. But I wish that was the case, because by the time Bill Clinton left office, the federal government, the burden of federal government spending was down to about 18.5% of GDP. Now we're up near 25% of GDP. We are on a path to becoming a European welfare state, and there's no way to have French-sized government without having French-style stagnation and malaise.
Malaise, it's even a French word, isn't it? Well, yeah, I think that's right. And I think, as the old joke has it, if you rob Peter to pay Paul, you're always going to get Paul's vote. And that's certainly sort of what the strategy has been. And it's pretty nice to be one of the governing class in a place like France. I mean, the fact is they have it very well. Their lives are cushy. They have even more of an entitlement mentality than our governing class has, but that's because they get away with it even more. So you can see why that sort of thing appeals to the people in power. But I'm hoping that we'll see, as you say, a lot more pushback from people out there in the world. Do you see any other hopeful signs besides sort of the Tea Party movement and things like that?
Well, I think simply looking at the public opinion data gives me some degree of hope. Now, I wish we had the Tea Party protest the last 8 years. I wish the average sort of conservative or libertarian voter was upset during the Bush years when we had no bureaucrat left behind education bills, these corrupt farm bills and pork-filled transportation bills. And where were all the protests when Bush was doing the giant Medicare prescription drug entitlement program? So, yeah, I'm a little frustrated that it's taken people 8 years to finally wake up. But I am glad that it's happened. I hope this is leading to a renaissance of people realizing that the American spirit of self-reliance is something that's worth cherishing and preserving, because if we don't, if we wind up all becoming serfs with the government giving us crumbs from their table, then we are going to be Europe. There's just no ifs, ands, and buts about it.
Yeah, well, to be fair, I mean, you're right that spending was certainly excessive under the Bush administration. We did have the pork busters movement, which, Trent Lott did say he was damn tired of. Okay. But it was sort of John the Baptist to the Tea Party movement or something. I don't know what the right analogy there is. It prefigured it. But, yeah. It's like Al Gore's boiling the frog example. Under Bush, they kept the temperature set in the same place, and then Obama gave it a big twist to high, and the frog started jumping. Yeah, I hope we do something too. And that's sort of my final question for you today is, to our viewers out there, what should they be doing right now to advance the cause of smaller and more fiscally responsible government?
Well, hopefully everyone who's watching this will be an ambassador in their community. They'll send the link to this program to their friends and colleagues and family. Of course, I'll be delighted if they go to YouTube, type in my name, Dan Mitchell, find my videos, send them around. But don't just stop there. Contact your politicians. There's nothing. I worked on Capitol Hill many, many years ago, and I can assure you that the one thing that gives these pampered politicians, keeps them up at night, it's the fear that someday the voters are going to wake up and get upset like they did in 1994. And if we can sort of fan the flames of discontent and make people understand what's at stake, then I think we could actually lead a revolution, which is one of the most important things we could do, other than, and you'll appreciate this being from Knoxville, Tennessee, I'm a Georgia Bulldog. We need to get my football team back up on top in the Southeastern Conference.
Well, now you're really asking for a miracle. I don't know. But we'll settle for trying to make the federal government fiscally responsible, and then we'll see about trying to make the Georgia Bulldogs worth something. Whatever. Go Vols. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to join us, Dan. I really appreciate you coming into the studio in D.C. and talking with me, and keep up the good work.
Well, thanks, Glenn.
Thanks, and I've been talking to Dan Mitchell of the Cato Institute. You can see more at cato.org. That's cato.org. And we'll see you soon. In the meantime, have a Merry Christmas, a Happy Hanukkah, and have fun on the internet. Thanks.